Welcome to FilmFizzes. Dive into the world of movies with us as we break down plots, uncover hidden details, and explore the magic of cinema. So, let's start today's show.
I need to know who killed my son. It's gotta be an inside job. Not good enough.
As requested, what brand are you?
The boss is going undercover as an armored truck driver.
Get in the truck!
Sorry, pal.
He's not a cop. If he's not a cop, what is he?
It's very
Welcome to
important that you
FilmFizzes.
take my inquiry seriously.
Today I will make sense of a 2021 activity spine-chiller heist film called Wrath of Man with spoilers ahead. Watch and appreciate when two safety officers are moving cash in a money truck. A gathering dressed as development laborers stops them with a billboard. When they stop, the specialists take out weapons and explosives to loot it and kill the two gatekeepers alongside a non-military personnel. After that shocking occurrence, Fortico Security attempts to build their security 5 months some other time when a newcomer Patrick Slope goes along with them as a safety officer. His new supervisor Terry tells him about the misfortune and that nobody got found out for that wrongdoing. He cautions Patrick to keep fixed hands on. Patrick goes through the essential preparation and tests under Coach Hayden, whom they call Projectile. Patrick scarcely passes the 70 score he really wants to accomplish in the security tests. He smashes the truck into boxes while switching and dissipates the slugs to all pieces of the objective while firing a firearm shot. Acquaints Patrick as H with his partners in the storage space. One of them is Kid Sweat Day, who doesn't get Patrick's humor in their most memorable trade, yet H dazzles Dana, their solitary female part. All the staff, including Tacky John, whom H replaces to become Kid Sweat's accomplice, treat H as a newbie, tossing snide comments and signals. Slug joins H in Boy Sweat for H's underlying assortment rights. He cautions H prior to getting into the truck, "We ain't the hunters, we're the go after the drive." Kid Sweat lets H know that he should drive the outfitted truck that went into inconvenience 5 months back, yet he was debilitated. He was at his mother's place and she was his vindication. Express is shot from behind. H goes with Slug when they go out to gather cash from a bank and it goes down easily. They arrive at back to their warehouse protected on the initial day through the weighty security entryway and metal entry watched by Tacky John. By the day's end work, the gatekeepers swipe out their IDs and put them on a board prior to going for some brew and pool games. Projectile welcomes H to go along with them. H requests that Projectile allow him a moment and covertly takes a gander at the IDs of his new partners at the pool game. Different gatekeepers suggest Tacky John to stand up to H and H puts him down viciously, giving him cash to purchase himself a brew and drink it single-handedly. In a corner, Tacky John chooses not to draw out the embarrassment by leaving unobtrusively. Slug snidely calls H a social entertainer for his discourteousness on one of their assortment rides. Shot goes out alone to gather a limited quantity of 10,000 when Kid Sweat attempts to reach him. They hear Projectile being taken by certain looters. Voice Sweat loses it and recommends to H that they ought to leave with the 2.5 million in the truck. The burglars will leave. Slug as 10,000 is too minimal expenditure to kill him, yet H solidly lets him know that they are just leaving the spot with shot and he can leave, assuming he wishes. Kid Sweat chooses to remain as they follow the looters' orders to drive and pull up the truck at an abandoned spot. One of the veiled burglars ventures out from a vehicle before them and takes out Projectile wounded and bound. He puts a firearm to Shot's head while the burglar on the handset advises them to toss the cash in their trunk. Boy Sweat tells H the burglars will kill 3 of them and run with the cash, yet H advises him to quiet down and goes in the back. He tosses the cash sacks individually and yet purposely tosses one out onto the floor. The looter cautions H against playing any games and Kid Sweat begins perspiring, asking H to simply follow their orders. When a looter ventures out to get the pack on the floor, H acts quickly, shooting him and the burglar, holding Projectile as well as the others, leaving simply the person who conversed with them. H comfortable pursues him into a neglected stockroom, leaving Kid Sweat and Projectile sweating in awe. It doesn't take long for H to get up to speed and ask the burglar who he works for. He decides to affront him as opposed to noting, and afterward H shoots the man. Boy Sweat and Slug show up and H asks Kid Sweat on the off chance that he's okay as the two of them stay in shock. H exposes the essences of other dead looters yet doesn't find what he is searching for. 2 FBI officials come in to ask about the episode. They ask H how his shooting during the occurrence was so exact. While his shooting score was normal on the test, he says he might have zeroed in more as he was in a circumstance of kill or be killed. They then let H watch the security video from the old burglary where 3 individuals were killed and inquire as to whether he can find any association with the occurrence. H centers around the pixelated face of the person in the focal point of the video who shot and killed those 3 individuals. Anyway, he tells the FBI officials that it wasn't them. The officials later tell Their supervisor FBI specialist lured that H was the person they have been attempting to get for quite a long time, yet their manager answers let the painter paint ruler trains them to avoid H. Following the fierce occurrence, Terry proposes H ought to avoid truck obligation for a month and go to certain meetings with a therapist according to the organization convention, yet neither H nor Fortico's proprietor Blake prefers the thought. The supervisor tells Terry not to rebuff H yet advance him as it's great for everybody and their exposure as well, thus H goes right back to truck obligation. Furthermore, when he strolls inside the station the following day, he gains the appreciation from his associates. Subsequently, H additionally gets an aide to present to him the individual documents of all Fortico security staff, Dana's family pictures, and the post-mortem examination report of the individual who kicked the bucket in the old burglary occurrence 3 months after the fact, with just Slug going with H in the truck. They run into one more gathering of looters with weapons. The looters paint every one of the windows and reflections of the truck. Darkshot quickly brings in code red, yet they utilize the entryway handle opening to figure them out of the truck. Slug goes all the way down, hacking. H gets out of the truck and is requested to get on the ground, yet when he uncovers his face the burglars leave. Terry gets dumbfounded by the occurrence, where H again emerges as a rescuer, yet their supervisor simply advises him to continue to squash it. Projectile likewise secretly tells Boyce what the story, calling H a dim-souled. Dana at last tells H about her affections for him, prompting a sleepover at her place. Anyway, around midnight H questions her at gunpoint about some cash she found and inquires as to whether she is filling in as an insider. She denies it and says that she just took it on one of her tasks. H says he realizes every one of her contacts, including her folks, and cautions against keeping any data from him. 5 months sooner, he's going out with his child Doug, his associate Mike, who halted the burglary when he saw H in the watchman uniform, calls him about a somewhat late issue in the burglary plan. Mike asks Doug to make a little showing as one of their genuine folks can't come to the spot, which is extremely close to H. All he wants to do is to notice a Fortico truck emerge from an entryway and let them know if it turns left or right. H hesitantly settles on their drive. H finds a food truck close to the entryway. He misleads Doug about being ravenous and leaves the vehicle. He asks Doug to sit inside prior to strolling to the food truck and requesting 2 burritos. He notices the truck take a right turn and passes the data to Mike. Anyway, the truck gets come by one more gathering of looters dressed as development laborers close to where H had left his vehicle. One of the burglars yells at Doug to get out of the vehicle. Doug calls H, yet he is as yet occupied with Mike on the call and he has no perspective on what's going on. Doug escapes the vehicle and lies level, confronting the ground as requested, yet he turns his head to see a looter kill 2 watches. In the interim, H begins strolling back and sees his child being killed. He begins running, yet is shot down too. When H returns to cognizance following 3 weeks, he is in a medical clinic bed with his child dead. Flop's mom faults H and calls him cold. He contacts his companion and FBI specialist Lord about the culprits, yet he could give a rundown of known lawbreakers that H can pursue and do his most terrible to find the genuine individual that killed his child. For the following a long time, H, Mike and their team wage conflict on the rundown, covering bodies at whatever point they appear to be fit. After a ton of fury and no outcomes, Mike recommends that they need a different methodology. H takes Mike's idea and lets him know that he would return to London for some time anyway. H causes his collaborator to make him a careful phony personality and gets under the name of Patrick Slope, with experience in the security business that is adequate to join Fortico Security. Since he joined, H has been searching for the insider and for the genuine looter that shot his child a couple of additional months prior. 6 angry military veterans with various monetary challenges refocus under their previous Sergeant Jackson and choose to deny rich Center Eastern individuals after one of them, Jan, calls for it, beginning with a couple $100,000 as time passes by. Their desires develop too, while everybody actually regards their Sergeant. Jan shows none of it, getting disturbed by the quantity of mediators they need to pay to transform their burglarized things into cash. They choose to straightforwardly loot the money trucks by paying only one insider and parting the cash 7 different ways as their burglaries go into millions. Jackson requests that they be mindful so as to not stop their positions and purchase anything garish to make anybody suspect them, yet Jen scarcely pays attention to any of what Jackson or anybody says. When they get together for Jackson's birthday, they choose to design and burglarize the Fortico's truck with a decent insider made of Jackson. After thorough readiness and arranging, they dress like development laborers and sit on the site. When H leaves his vehicle on the side of the road that ought not be an issue, Jackson says and relegates a part to deal with the vehicle. They stop the money truck and get the watchman out. Jen keeps a firearm on the gatekeepers while one of them pulls Doug from the vehicle and makes him lie on the ground. The others move the money sacks from the truck to their vehicle. Everything goes as arranged until one of the watchmen attempts to threaten to use his firearm on January. After a fight, Jan fires the gatekeeper down prior to gunning during the time monitor too. When Jackson inquires as to whether all is well, Jan expresses okay prior to finding Doug on the floor lying as an Observer he destroys Doug brutally. One teen part yells at Jan for killing the youngster. Prior to finding H running towards them, he inquires Jan to shoot H's legs, yet Jan fires at H's chest and views at his completely open eyes as he lies on the ground prior to getting into their vehicle. Following a while, the gathering meets again, tingling for a considerably greater burglary. Jackson lets Jan know that he is fortunate to in any case be important for their group. He then, at that point, lets the group know that their next burglary can finance them and their families forever, and that they wouldn't require additional heists after this one. Yet this plan isn't so idiot-proof as prior ones. He cautions yet as none of them falter. Jackson uncovers his arrangement to ransack not one money truck, yet every one of them, from the Fortico station on the shopping extravaganza following Thanksgiving, where there could be any place more than $150 million back at the Fortico stop. Terry cautions the watchman of the unique degrees of safety they need to take on the huge shopping day after Thanksgiving prior to going for their last heist. Jackson despises Jan for his costly spending regardless of his recommendation on the shopping extravaganza following Thanksgiving. Shot and H drive out after their last assortment. Projectile tells H that he is the insider for the gathering that had burglarized their truck such a long time back, killing 3 individuals. The gatekeepers should have been killed, yet the youngster's demise was sad. He then lets H know that he had taken the projectiles out from his weapon as of now and that they are wanting to burglarize the stop today. He advises H to keep composed and collaborate to remain alive. He then turns off the cameras on the truck prior to taking it to a stockroom where Jackson and his men, generally equipped in impenetrable shield, go along with them. One of them look through H and slaps him, cautioning him to be a decent kid during the heist. Jan and 3 others come inside the money truck while Jackson and another follow them in their own vehicle. Their truck is the final remaining one to show up at the terminal. The 4 furnished men emerge from the truck, assume command over the leaving spot, and take Terry, Kid Sweat, H, and even shot as prisoners. Dana goes inside a money truck to take a mark from another gatekeeper steward who calls her inside the truck to show an entertaining video. The burglars limit H's options and legs while conveying Slug alongside a weapon to his head, asking the inside staff to open the metal entryway of the vault. However, Tacky John stirs things up around town. Alarm when he sees them and the staff fire at the burglars. One of the 4 looters puts an unstable at the metal entryway prior to going along with others to return the fire and kill a considerable lot of the watchmen that come at them. The ballistic plates in their shields save the burglars for the majority of the fire, yet one of them gets seriously harmed before they break the metal door and open the external door for Jackson and their other person to come in with their vehicle. Jackson takes control of the terminal and requests that his group clear the structure while the police show up outside and caution the smack. They begin moving the money into sacks while counting down the 8 minutes that the specialized squad takes to show up. They need to leave before Smack shows up, as their vehicle can stop a money truck, not at all like the squad cars, which can be punched through. The looters kill every one of the watchmen other than Dana, Stewart, and Shirley, who are at the rear of a money truck, while Stewart says they ought to sit tight for the specialized squad. Shirley says it would be as well. Layton begin taking shots at one of the burglars. H exploits the shooting as it diverts the looter remaining close by. He shoots the burglar's foot with his own weapon prior to stifling him out. He then, at that point, liberates himself with a blade and furthermore unfastens Terry and Kid Sweat, who asks him for guidance on everything. To do anything that you like, he says to them prior to putting on the protective layer from the dead burglar boy. Sweat attempts to follow H to confront the looters, yet Terry hauls him back to return to somewhere safe through the secondary passage with him. Shirley has chanced down, yet Dana and Stewart gather weapons and attempt to discharge at the looters. H moves toward another burglar, makes him remove his protective cap and shoots him. The others consider that immediately. Voice Sweat has a body chance into his tactical armor carrier by a burglar whom H gets a fight in return of blows ensue for some time before H goes after him, yet just with a vacant firearm anyway. The blade on that burglar's shield assists him with putting that burglar down. Voice Sweat views at H's ridiculous head in dread as H eliminates his cap anyway. He chooses to battle and follows H this time as Jackson calls his excess men to move out with the money. Slug arrives at Dana and Stewart asking them for a weapon. Stewart passes it to him, after which Projectile cruelly kills both Stewart and Dana without a recoil. H destroys 2 additional burglars before Shot destroys H. Projectile then gets down on Kid Sweat like a pal and shoots him down. Jackson, Jan, and Shot, the main overcomers of their team, leave the terminal with cash in a money truck, punching through the police vehicles. Jackson begins to drain vigorously with a harmed neck before they arrive at a structure's carport as arranged. Getting away from the police, Shot and Jan shift the cash packs onto a transporter for the lift while harmed Jackson stays behind in the truck preparing his firearm for Jan, yet he gets him in the demonstration and cuts his throat without a clamor. He lets Slug know that Jackson passed on from wounds as they go down to a mystery passage and ride on 2 4-wheel bicycles to arrive at a Vehicle left at the opposite end, careful about Jan projectile attempts to do likewise. That his buddy Jackson neglected to do yet, even he is slow. Jen shoots shot in the head without even batting an eye prior to arriving at his place with all the cash sacks. As he indulges himself with a beverage, he hears a telephone ring. He sees his telephone, yet it's not ringing. He follows the sound and finds a cell phone in one of the cash packs. Ain't you going to answer? Jen inquires as to whether H needs a portion of the cash, yet H tosses his child's postmortem report it and Jen peruses it out. As it says, his 4 slugs had raised a ruckus around town. Lung, spleen. Furthermore, the core of H's child. Jen then recalls H's face from the burglary scene. He gives back in kind for the benefit of his child. Liver, lungs, spleen and heart. When H is on out limping with wounds, Lord comes behind he to inquire as to whether he is done. We're done. Gratitude for observing if it's not too much trouble. Similar to like,
Thanks
share
for
and
watching
subscribe
Film
to in the
Fizzes.
feed. Till then, bye.
If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, and subscribe for more movie insights. See you next time.